Well, good morning, everyone. I will now call to order the January 23rd, 2025 Clackamas County Board of County Commissioners business meeting. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please do the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair Roberts. First staff support today, County Counsel Jane Vetto, Clerk to the Board Andrew Jaraki. Roll call, Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Fireside.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. And if you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. And recently, the board received some requests from the public to reorder our usual agendas to allow members of the public to comment before any votes are taken, and constituents' participation is immensely important to us. So the first agenda item of today's meeting will be public communication. So I will open the meeting for public testimony. In-person testimony will be taken. I ask my colleagues to just please hold your comments until after I've closed the public communication portion. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. I ask that your comments be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as a part of the public record. Clerk, would you please moderate both in-person and virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've received blue cards from those who are attending the meeting in person and wish to speak. If you have not yet filled out a blue card and are attending the meeting in person and wish to speak, this is your time to please fill one out and deposit it in the box by the entrance to the hearing room. I will call on the blue cards in the order that I've received them. First, I have Natalie Lutmer of Happy Valley. Please come forward and you'll have 3 minutes. After Ms. Lutmer will be Daniel Cubes. But first, Natalie Lutmer, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is the third week in a row I've been here, so I'm sure you're familiar with the topic I'm going to talk about. It is regarding the extra and what I feel is unnecessary $214.75 taken out monthly of the EA employees' paychecks until the new union contract is ratified. And once it's ratified, then we get to go back to the $88.46 for that Kaiser premium. To make it clear again, I'm not discussing any bargaining issues. That's nothing that I want to talk about. I'm just solely talking about this paycheck issue. And what it really seems to me, or at least what I'm feeling, is that no one wants to take responsibility for this decision. But I am imploring you and those who are listening who do have the power to make a change for this to do so. It's hard when you're feeling powerless. And I'm going to tell you right now, the members of the EA union who are Kaiser members, they are feeling powerless. They don't feel like they have any avenue to speak from. Since I started speaking, which was a hard decision on my part, I've had so many other employees reach out to me and thank me because they are too scared to do so for fear of retaliation. And I think that's sad that as being constituents of the county and employees that they fear retaliation for speaking up about how this is impacting them negatively. It's extra money out of their pay that does hurt their family. There's ones that are in the middle of medical treatment themselves, or their family members are in the middle of medical treatment, and they can't just switch to a different provider willy-nilly. When people are going through certain treatments, you can't stop and then restart with someone else. It doesn't work that way. I'm going to share a personal story of mine, something that my coworkers don't know. Many people don't know this about me. And I'm sharing it because this is why I'm so passionate about this. In 2009, so it was quite some time ago, but I was in the middle of a divorce. I had my children. I was working a temporary job with the state. That was what I could find after being a housewife for 10 years. My children and I that year lived off of $11,000 for the entire year. That was what was on my tax return, $11,000. I had holes in my socks. This is why I don't ask anyone to take their shoes off when they come in my house, because people ask me to do that and I had holes in my socks. I had to take money from my children's piggy banks to pay for gas to get to work. You don't know how humbling it is to stand at a counter at a gas station and count out pennies and nickels and pray that you have enough to pay for your gas to get to work that week as the line's forming behind me. In a small town, how embarrassing. It was very humbling to do that, stealing from my children to pay for gas. That is why I am so passionate about this. I hid my struggles from my coworkers. I hid them. People didn't know I was doing this. The people didn't know how bad I was struggling. I hid it. And people here at the county are hiding how bad they are financially struggling. You're not going to know who those people are. They hide it well. But this is why I chose to speak up. I am in a much better position now, much, much better. I do not have those same struggles, but I am not so far removed from it that I don't remember what it was like to have $214 be a deciding factor on whether my small family was going to make it. My morals scream about how wrong this is, and I'm asking you, and again, those who have the power to change this, please, please do something to fix this. And I'm only talking about that $214. Thank you for hearing me again today.
And thank you for coming.
Next will be Daniel Cubes. Daniel Cubes, come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. After Mr. Cubes will be Mark Rieksecker. But first, Daniel Cubes, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Daniel Cubes. I'm a county employee for 10 years plus as a senior facility maintenance employee. I have always thought of everyone here being family. I've been always proud of being an employee here until recently. See, during the fire season, I was an evacuee for evacuation of stage 3. I had to evacuate. I came to work and worked during this time. During the ice storm, I was one of 3 that was climbing trees, removing dangerous branches from these falling trees. I am also one of 2 important water test samplers for this county to keep the public and employees' water safe. I live paycheck to paycheck. Our expenses are all high. We all have those expenses. What has been done to our paychecks of Kaiser members only has drastically affected me. I also know that facilities employees in that department are the lowest paid employees compared to the jail and to housing authority. I do more technical repairs than those other 2 departments, and we are not compensated for this. You ask us to work for core values of the spirit, but the values have been failed from you guys, I feel. I think it's wrong that you have taken the money from our paychecks for the Kaiser premium without advance notice, and only to the select few. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Mr. Mark Rieksecker. Mark Rieksecker. And this is a final reminder that if you would like to speak in person today at the meeting, to please fill out a blue card and deposit it in the box by the door. Thank you, Mr. Rieksecker. Go ahead, please. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mark Rieksecker. I live in Oregon City. I have 3 points to address. First point, in response to Commissioner Paul's statement 2 weeks ago that the commissioner should fact check what Clackamas County residents say during their 3 minutes, I'm not clear on what the resolution was, and would like to state the following. If you feel the need to fact check, please don't initiate that during our 3 minute redress of grievances. You have ample time to talk about it after we are finished. Also, will we be allowed to fact check what a commissioner says and voice that during a meeting? Case in point, about a year and a half ago, I sat in this chair and stated that Clackamas County residents are overburdened by property taxes to the amount of over $1 billion collected just for Clackamas County per year. Then Chair Smith interrupted my 3 minutes to state property taxes collections were not over $1 billion and had Gary read some numbers off his computer, stating that the numbers were somewhere in the $450 million range. I don't recall exactly. I've been given the $1 billion amount from a past reliable commissioner prior to my statements. So who was right? And what is the amount of property tax collection? I've had numerous meetings with Bronson Rueda, the elected Clackamas County appraiser. If anybody would know the true amount, it would be him. For the record, as stated by Bronson Rueda, the amount of property taxes collected in Clackamas County per year is over $1 billion. You have his contact information to verify. My point is twofold. It is not polite to interrupt our 3-minute presentation, and if you would like to fact check, make sure you're correct. Second point, in regard to Tina Kotek's mandate for training on how all Oregon employees should not cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, be aware that Tom Homan, the new border czar, has stated, according to 8 U.S. Code 1324, it is a felony to aid illegal immigrants. The code states penalties range from fines, imprisonments, and even the death penalty. I would hope, Councilor Vito, that you would put out a memo to Clackamas County employees to read 8 U.S. Code 1324 and not put their lives in jeopardy. Third and last point, Commissioner West, it has been stated that you are not a fan of aerial photography for property valuation. I'm not either. I view aerial photography as unwarranted invasion of our privacy as addressed in the Fourth Amendment. Have you or this board addressed this issue? And in closing, make America great again. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Chair, that concludes the in-person blue cards for testimony that I've received. I'll now move to online testimony. If you are attending this meeting virtually and you would like to speak, I'll now ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Christine Kennedy, I see your hand raised. I'll allow you to speak, and you'll have 3 minutes. Christine Kennedy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you?
Good morning. We can hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for a few minutes to speak. I'm speaking again in regards to an emergency resolution of the Democratic Party of Clackamas County. We're asking, it's a call to action related to possible deportation. We are in a time where there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and frankly, there's just been a fire hose of information that is really difficult to digest coming from on high, or excuse me, not on high, but from the current president of the United States. So my plea this morning is to ask the commissioners to please help our county understand how we will deal with issues regarding immigration, the treatment of people in our county who are undocumented, and just in general, how we plan to move forward together. I think it's a time where many of us are struggling with the uncertainty. Some of us are just can't even understand what it's like to be dealing with this kind of an issue. They have children who are citizens, and they're people, they're human beings. So we all need to follow the law. There's a new law in Oregon that was passed in 2021 called the Sanctuary Promise Act. You can go onto the DOJ website and learn more about it. There are things that we can do to support one another and create a healthier county moving forward in this time. I ask you to take this seriously, and please tell us what the policy is for Clackamas County. What are we going to do if this happens here? How are the employees protected? That's a very important issue. So I agree with the previous speaker that we need to understand what our obligations are, what our rights are in terms of this particular issue. And I urge you to have policy conversations about this. We need to know what the county policy is that covers the entire county, and the Clackamas Sheriff is somebody who can help us with that. So I just urge you to consider this seriously, and we need to put together a communication plan as to what this county will do in the occurrence of ICE agents coming in, asking employees, asking school employees, asking church people to do things that they don't want to do, but they're afraid of retribution. So I thank you all for your work. We need to keep working together as a community and not allow us to be further divided. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there is anyone else attending this meeting virtually and would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will call on you in the order that I see. Again, this is the final call for if you are attending this meeting virtually and would like to speak during public communication, please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, that concludes the list of names I have for both in-person and virtual testimony today.
All right, excuse me, thank you. I'll now close the public portion of public communication, and at this time I will turn to my colleagues as to any input or comments they'd like to make, and I'll start with you, Mr. West.
Thank you for your testimony today from the staff here at Clackamas County, for your concerns around the changes in the premiums with Kaiser and other issues around bargaining. It's very difficult to sit up here when there's only one side, and any accusation and anything can be said when it comes from one side, right? And so there's I hope things become illuminated as we move forward. We'll see how this works. There's a definite process that's being played out, and we're a little bit bound right now by that. But let me just review a little bit about what has happened. And then I do look forward to the day, hopefully, where we can be more forthright from this dais. I absolutely do. I hope that you do also. The bargaining process, there's been over a dozen bargaining sessions held during the negotiation cycle, including 3 bargaining sessions in December, in an attempt to settle the contract before the end of the year. I believe, am I right, the other public employee unions here in Clackamas County, they did make sure that happened, and they did get their contract settled, correct? The only one outstanding is the EA. Is that my understanding that right?
Councilor,
Okay.
I believe you are muted.
Oh.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then 2 mediation sessions have been completed, with a 3rd mediation session scheduled for January 29th. The parties have reached tentative agreements on a majority of the contract articles, with 8 articles still under discussion, including health and welfare employee benefits. Information for the employees. Employees can visit the Employee and Labor Relations website for more information on the county's proposals that have been presented to the association. The county is proud of the economic package offered and encourages employees to contact their union and bargaining team to discuss these details and further. But there is a lot still out there that is not being presented or said.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to share that I do have family that are part of labor organizations, none of which are related to the county whatsoever. And I have had family members that had to endure the financial difficulties of a strike or cost related to. So in my own personal household, we suffered severely because of it went on for so long. One particular strike one of my family members was involved in. So I understand that. I'm sympathetic to that. I also grew up very poor, and I tell people, I remember trying to sleep at night being starving. I was so thin because I just couldn't, there was just not enough food. I had 6 other brothers and sisters. I'm from a family of 7. My parents were divorced. And so I understand the struggles of those hardships. So I sympathize with that, and I sympathize on both elements. I appreciate you coming forward and your passion, and I don't question your hardships. So thank you again for coming. And Mr. Rieksacker, I just want to say that the board, no one on this dais interrupted anyone. They had their free opportunity to speak. You can watch that video. It's all on tape. so you can see that, the comments we made. And the word fact check was not in there. Actually, it's one of our rules that we have here that we do our best to correct misinformation. And I addressed that with that speaker last week. And I think we're on decent terms, having an understanding. So I apologize if you interpreted that as we're fact checking or there's a responsibility to fact check or we interrupted. I truly believe that it's wrong to interrupt anyone up here who comes up here and speak. They ought to have that full right to do that uninterrupted. So appreciate your testimony. I'm happy to connect with you afterwards as well. So that's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Fireside comment. Just before we wrap it up, I want to reiterate the fact that this is our listening session. I value it, and that we moved you to the front to make sure that we're hearing from you, and I value you taking time off work and to show up and be here. So I want you to know it is important to us and that we are listening. So unless my colleagues have any other comments about public testimony, seeing none, we'll move on. And Gary, what's next?
Chair, next is the consent agenda. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda. Item A, elected officials, 1. Approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. 2. Approval of a revenue grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for jail-based medications for opioid use disorders. Agreement value is $372,772 for 1 year. Funding is to the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. 3. Approval of public improvement contract with Colton Homes for a remodel of the jail kitchen floor. Agreement value is $163,211 for 6 months. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. 4. Approval of a public improvement contract with Highland Mechanical for replacement of jail plumbing fixtures. Agreement value is $247,000 for 6 months. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. 5. Approval of an amendment to a contract with Mark 43 for records and property management software. Amendment value is $223,450 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $1,654,945.44 for 8 years. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. 6. Approval of a personal services contract with Parrot Creek Child and Family Services for a peer recovery mentor to assist clients recently released from jail. Agreement value is $150,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. B, finance. 1. Approval of an amendment to a public service contract with Pace Engineers for engineering services at the Clackamas County Stabilization Center. Amendment value is $22,440. Total agreement value is $155,960 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Administrative Services. No county general funds are involved. 2. Approval of a public improvement contract with the Harvard Company for soundproofing and acoustic ceiling tile at the Lake Road Health Center. Agreement value is $258,134 for 2 months. Funding is through health center fees and charges. No county general funds are involved. C, juvenile. 1. Approval of an annual intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Educational Services District for grant funding of an education and employment coordinator position. Agreement value is $43,000 for 1 year. No county general funds are involved. D, health, housing, and human services. 1. Approval of a renewal of a revenue grant agreement with Care Oregon for business plan development for the strategic healthcare investment for transformation behavioral health projects. Total agreement value is $2,680,000 for 2 years. Funding is through Care Oregon. No county general funds are involved. 2. Approval of a revenue administrative services agreement with Trillium Community Health Plan for community-based public health services, which includes perinatal care, syringe distribution, and tuberculosis treatment. Total agreement value is $150,000 for 2 years. Funding is through Trillium Community Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. E, transportation and development. 1. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for authorization and cooperation to perform commercial vehicle driver and cargo inspection. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. 2. Approval of a board order to authorize the purchase of 4 Volvo dump trucks for the Transportation Maintenance Division. Total purchase value is $1,140,352. Funding is through the County Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Andrew. Do any commissioners want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing no objection, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as read.
And is there a second?
Second.
And any further discussion? Commissioner West.
I will say this, in this consent agenda, there's a number of improvements being made to the Clackamas County Jail. If any of you guys have seen that floor in the kitchen, this is way overdue. Sheriff, I'm sorry, Chair. Sorry, former Sheriff Roberts, you are fully aware of some of these issues in that tired building that we eventually probably gonna have to make further larger investments in. But I know consent agenda is often sleepy, but with those of us that have to see that and do that annual tour in the jail, this is nice to see. Those upgrades are absolutely necessary. I don't know if you have thoughts about that. You probably know better than any of us, but it was good to see that on our consent agenda.
Yeah, no, I was thrilled. I see we have Lee Eby here as well, and who ran that jail for years and knows that it has a number of issues. He's made a number of upgrades, so thank you, Lee. I was always surprised to say that they have mixers in the jail that came out of World War II battleships. The serving trays came out of World War II battleships, so we've got our use out of that equipment, and Lee's done a good job, and so thank you for noticing the maintenance issues, which are huge. So thank you, Commissioner West. So not having any other further discussion, the motion is approved, 5-0, and thank you.
You didn't vote yet, Chair.
Pardon?
The vote's not been called yet.
I'm sorry. Would you call the poll, please? Sorry.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savis.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Now we passed, 5-0, and thank you, Gary, for keeping me on track. I guess I'm moving a little faster than I had hoped. I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Development Agency Board. So, Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is the Development Agency Consent Agenda. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Development Agency Consent Agenda. A, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas River Water for reimbursements for the Linwood Avenue Improvement Project. Amendment value has no fiscal impact for 5 months. Total agreement value is $146,610. Funding is through Clackamas River Water. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the Development Agency Consent Agenda.
Right, thank you. Do any commissioners wish to remove this from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
Schrader. So it's been moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Schrader to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Savis.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. I will now adjourn as a Development Agency Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what is up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is County Administrator Update. That is me. I'd like to share the great work of our county employees during my update. And today, I have several I'd like to share with you. First, I want to recognize our staff in our 911 center that we call CCOM here at Clackamas County. First, they produced a Stork Award. A Stork Award is when one of our 911 dispatchers helps someone on the other line deliver a baby. Last week, dispatcher Liz Bailey helped a new father in Clackamas deliver his partner's breech baby before responders were able to arrive on scene. Liz did an outstanding job in providing instructions and care over the phone and comfort for the caller. It's always a great day when new life is brought into the world, especially when our staff at our 911 center are able to help make that happen. So thank you to Liz and the incredible dispatchers. Also with CCOM, we received news from Canby Fire that they are planning a Chain of Survival ceremony. This is to recognize people involved in applying CPR to save a life of a person within the Canby Fire District. In the next couple of months, 13 of our 911 dispatchers will be recognized for their collective work in responding to 4 different life-saving actions where they helped save a person's life through this, quote, chain of survival. I'll have more information on the names of these awardees after the ceremony occurs in March, but I want to recognize again our amazing 911 dispatchers for all they do every day to support the public and especially people in their darkest time of need. Next, I want to recognize our Social Services Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services. They operate a Relatives as Parents program, or RAP, R-A-P-P. This program provides support to grandparents, aunts, uncles, or others who take on primary caregiver roles for children whose parents are unable to do so. RAP Program Coordinator Jen Ortiz recently received this note of appreciation from a grandparent in the RAP program, and this person wrote, "Jen, you have made a positive difference for so many years in the lives and words. A thank you could never reflect the joy you've brought to our lives. We always knew love would be the foundation of our lives, even if we had very little means and we struggled. We are rich in love. Thank you, Jen, for each smile and the joy you have brought to us." So thank you, Jen, and all of our RAP team for what they do to help serve the public. That is my update for today. Thank you, Commissioners. Back to you, Chair Roberts.
Right. Thank you, Gary. And now is the time for Commissioner communication. And Commissioner Schrader, may I start with you?
Well, I had an opportunity last night to attend MPAC, and it was like deja vu, okay, or Groundhog Day, however you want to look at it, because I've done that many times. And they had an interesting discussion about a cooling corridor. So they're looking at the kinds of vegetation they can plant along transportation corridors in order to give more shade and things of that sort. I think it's an interesting idea. I did mention you have to be careful because of fires, however. So let's look at that as a great idea for cooling and shade trees, but let's also be cognizant of the fact that, we have to, that'll be another thing to deal with in fire season. So anyway, that was my only comment, positive, but let's proceed carefully with this. And today, Gary, I think I have the pleasure of going to the union's president's meeting with you guys, okay? I want to thank the staff yesterday. I had a meeting with our communications folks yesterday, and I ended up bringing my dog to the emergency clinic. Ginger Rose, my Labradoodle, has just gotten spayed, and I had to bring her in to make sure that was all going well. So I want to thank the staff for understanding that I was on my way, but got sidetracked. And also, I'd like to just tell a personal story too, Chair, if you let me do it. So back when I was in high school in 1970, I was chosen to be an American Field Service student. And the American Field Service was an ambulance company during the First World War. And because they had seen so much carnage and they were dealing with people who were getting injured and dying, they decided they wanted to be a voice for world peace. So what they did is they morphed into an exchange program. It's worldwide. It's still going on. I still keep in touch with my American Field Service students. So I applied as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 16-year-old who hadn't seen the world yet to go and be an exchange student. And lo and behold, I got sent to the Philippines, okay? And I was a summer program student, so I was there for 3 months. But I stayed with a family. It was the Naldosa family and the Fermendosa family. There were two families. I had another friend who was in another family. And Elena Fermendosa I became very close to her. She was my Filipino sister. They had a large family of like 10 kids. I got to see, Manila, Baguio, Miagao was the town I was in. It was a really small community, and it was a barrio community. I remember one day, they gave me a real treat of a boiled goat heart, and I did eat it. I got to it, but I did feel a little bad because I think I'd seen that little goat, the day before. I was like, okay. So let me fast forward to coming home, and both my parents, my mother and father, were nurses. And it turns out members of the Fermendosa family were physicians, they were nurses, they were lab technicians, as well as the Naldosa family. And so my parents, and I didn't think it was that big a deal back then, okay, because I was 16, 17. I was 17 by that time, okay. And I'm like, of course my parents are going to help these folks and sponsor them and come over to the United States of America. That's what they're going to do. In my town of Port Chester, New York, we had a very large Filipino population of nurses, doctors, physicians, and lab techs. So my parents took the risk of sponsoring folks, these families, to come over and get a job in our local hospital at United Hospital. And I have to tell you, that was a risk, because when you sponsored someone, you were taking responsibility to make sure that they would succeed and that these folks would be productive members of of our country in the United States of America. So fast forward, I'm still in touch with the family. My sister, Elena, did pass away 2 years ago, but I'm in touch with her daughter, Grace. They just sent me a wonderful Christmas card with their entire family, and they are professionals. I got to go to Elena's son's graduation at the University of Portland, where he did engineering. The other kids are all doing nursing, engineering, medical studies, and they have become extremely productive members of our society, and they are citizens today. I'm very proud of my parents for doing that and for taking that risk, and letting me, as a naive 16-year-old, go to a foreign country and really realize how people get here in a way and become part of America. So I just wanted to tell that personal story. And I'll be probably going to the Philippines sometime in the near future with Grace to visit the community and to visit my friends there. And my younger sister, who is the youngest of 10 children there, Ting Ting, and she is also a nurse, and her daughter is a nurse in the Philippines. So I just wanted to share that because it was very meaningful for me. And bless the American Field Service for doing this work. They're still doing this work today, where kids all over the United States get sent to other countries, and then kids from other countries get to come here. And it's a great experience. So if you're a high school kid and you want to apply to AFS, you can reach me here at the county, and I'd be glad to help out. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Martha. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I just want to build on just a little bit the World War II stuff. So
Yeah.
People don't maybe know this about me, but I do have I do restore old equipment and everything. And I do have 2 World War II pieces as well as post-war pieces, machines and so forth. And they're all operational, by the way. So they don't make them like they used to. And believe me, there are some old machines that only the old machines can do that nothing can do today. So don't sell World War II stuff short, right? Because there's some good stuff out there. I did want to talk a little bit. Commissioner Schrader mentioned the Metro heat map work, so that was also presented at JPAC, and I just want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. I did speak to that at JPAC, and be mindful, I think, that some of the urban, high-density type things that are taking place in Portland, clearly it was stated, I was not the only one to state it, is that, well, it makes sense that, not that that's a desired outcome, but if you want high density, you need to cut all the trees down, right? And you cut all the shrubbery, and you take every square inch of that property, and you stand up a building, and there's no room for trees or shade or anything else. So it stands to reason that you get what you got, right? You essentially built that, and I have pointed that out over the years, especially people that were wanted to see more trees, and especially in downtown where there's not much room for trees. I know that former Chair Lehan, let's used to call them popsicle trees, those street line trees. While I understand that, I always also worry about some of the studies that make a case for, let's say the heat and so on and so forth or whatnot, but sometimes that's a predecessor to some kind of a funding grant that would go towards trying to remedy that or mediate that. And the same token is I think we need to be, if we're going to continue to build that high-density stuff for Portland, I'm not really in favor of that wholly in, more of a suburban county and a rural county than we are urban. But it does come with some consequences, and God forbid we have another fire that creeps into our rural area, let alone our urban area, because the higher the density, the more loss there is.
We're learning that now, yeah.
So with that, I yield back, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. And Commissioner West.
The last few weeks have been very engaged dealing with the SHS issue tax. Chair, we've already reported on this, but we went to the last big meeting that they had with all the different stakeholders. There's a lot of changes coming around. The metro is at great odds with not just the 3 counties, but also the cities. When I was in DC this last week, I had the opportunity to spend a significant amount of time with some of our mayors that are leading on this issue. Mayor out of Beaverton, Lake Oswego, a lot of collaborative work to push back against Metro, and it's mission creep in here, and trying to really protect the county's autonomy, its funding sources, doing the work efficiently, quickly, to get ahead of the crisis that we face. The voters were very clear. They said, you have 10 years, here's the money, here's a lot of it, now go get it done and get ahead of it. Well, we haven't been in the entire metro area. But the rest of the metro area has not seen the same success that Clackamas County has seen. I think it's because we have a different worldview and we've governed a little bit differently than the rest of the metro area. But regardless, like someone that's pushing all their belongings up 82nd across Duke Street, they don't realize they just crossed over into Clackamas County. So what happens in those 2 counties definitely impacts us here. So trying to find pragmatic, good, practical solutions that make sense for everybody, while also trying to work hard to rebuild the public's trust. To be honest, they have every reason not to trust us on this issue within the metro area. We have not had the success that we've needed to have or shown the strong leadership and the resolve to get things done. And all the while, people suffer in our streets, and they are and human despair is all too common here in the Portland metro area. So we're working hard on that. Chair Roberts, I really appreciate your ability to work hard to get caught up to speed. Thank you. And it's just been a couple weeks, but it's been nice working with you. So I appreciate that and your engagement. I know that you're very passionate about this. You had great results as sheriff in this part of public work. So we're working on that. Another thing I think it's really important that's been top of mind for me is I think for prosperity to happen within a community, public safety is paramount. You can't have prosperity within the public if they don't feel safe. If they don't feel safe getting on mass transit, if they don't feel safe, dropping their kids off at school or walking their dog at the dog park, if they can't, feel like they have that security, it's really hard to have a prosperous community. Places that lack prosperity, unfortunately, often have issues around criminality. And Clackamas County has always we've always been a champion of public safety. And it's been a core piece of who we are, how we've even set ourselves apart from the rest of the metro area. Sheriff, I remember when there were large public safety concerns and other leadership in the state, you had to stand up and say that's not the Clackamas County way. And you did that boldly, and maybe it wasn't always popular, and maybe others leaned on you to step up when they didn't have the political capital to do so, and you've always championed public safety in your record, which we still champion to this day. I know Sheriff Brandenburg does also, and I'm really proud of of our deputies and our officers here in Clackamas County. But if we can prevent violent crime from happening, we should. And I want to speak very narrowly. We just had a landmark bipartisan legislation passed federally out of the Senate, 64 to whoever voted no, but the 12 Democrats crossed over and voted on the Lincoln-Riley Act that talks about the need to detain those that are violent and criminal and should never have the opportunity to hurt our citizens. I'm speaking to that specific population that intersects with criminality. Unfortunately, in Oregon, with legislation that was passed in 2021 and prior, we provide safe harbor to those that commit criminal acts in Oregon. I don't think the public's with that. We can talk about different populations and how to handle them uniquely and be humane. That's a different public conversation. But the gentleman that was in Fred Meyer's around Christmas time with his holiday groceries, an illegal alien tried to criminally carjack and then stab him in the back and then was arrested, but he had already been previously deported and had previous charges against him for trying to kill a coworker with a nail gun. He never should have been in Clackamas. But he did find safe harbor to come back to Oregon. Thousands are dying in our streets of fentanyl because we have a border crisis. It impacts local government, impacts Clackamas County. We are spending billions of dollars because hundreds of thousands of people are dying or being crossed in a dangerous, inhumane way that costs lives because we've had the inability to have law and order and security. And far too many people that are seeking refuge and that are victimized, or those in our own community that are victimized, have been impacted and hurt by these failed policies. And I don't know exactly where all these laws intersect with Oregon. We had the Lincoln-Riley Act. We've had former legislation council that we have talked about, like, where do we fall? I know we're going to have this conversation. I don't know what we can and cannot say from this dais even. I don't understand, like, does Oregon truly provide safe harbor? Where and how do we intersect with federal government and ICE? Like, when is it appropriate if we want to make sure that the worst and most violent people in this part of the community aren't doing these crimes in our county? I don't understand the legality around that. I don't understand, maybe how we can help our community feel safer so it can prosper. But by no means do I ever want to hear another story in the Portland metro area where somebody who never should have been here horrifically victimized one of our neighbors. Maybe the vast, maybe that's still maybe, I don't know the numbers even, but maybe it's not a ton of people that are acting out in a criminal way that way. Maybe it's a handful, but that handful never should have been here. And those lives and families are forever scarred because of that person's actions. There's a lot I don't know here, but I am concerned about making sure that we have a peaceful and safe community for everyone, no matter where they're from and who they are. And those that are bad actors that want to hurt others are not welcome here in Clackamas County. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Commissioner Fireside.
Yes, thank you. So first, I want to just say a big thank you to our county departments for taking so much time and effort to orientate myself to the work that they're doing, and just supporting me getting ready to continue this work. Tomorrow I have a meeting with the group from unincorporated Clackamas County, actually in Commissioner Savis's area, to learn more about their needs and just get up to speed with the issues that they have in that particular part of our county. These last few weeks have been really great and really busy, and I'm just really thankful for all the support Gary and his team have given me. So thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'll echo what Melissa said. The county staff, we've been meeting with directors back to back, and want to say thank you for arranging all the staff to be there and the time. I did want to follow up on 911 dispatchers. And many people probably just don't realize how traumatic a job that is. And as a former detective, working a variety of different types of crimes, most often I'd have to get the 911 tapes, maybe talk to the dispatchers. And I can just tell you from personally talking to people in that field, it is a high stress, very high anxiety job. And their goal is to save lives, and sometimes it doesn't work. And to be the person on that phone dealing with somebody in a crisis is really hard. It's always very heartwarming to hear the number of people that are saved. And my parents actually had an incident where they were trying to deal with my father who had some issues, and they were trying a bunch of stuff. And the first thing when I found out about it was I said, call 911. They will walk you through the steps of what to do. And that should be that first call, is making that. And so personally, my thanks to those folks that are taking those calls. I know how difficult it is, and really appreciate their work. The one comment I wanted to make too is disaster management, emergency management, also meeting with staff. I just want you to know that's a big priority for me, that I feel like, being here during the fires in 2020, we've had a number of snowstorms and other disasters, that really it's all about preparedness and really trying to look at legislative dollars that can help us in those times of need, making sure that we're working together. And it was great to hear staff really updating us on a lot of those critical issues. And lastly, just wanted to kind of really extend a thanks to all of my colleagues here for their patience. Ben's been tremendous getting me up on SHS stuff. Martha's been there, a huge support over the years, and And then Commissioner Savas has got, everybody I think knows, has got a memory that goes back that can give you details of dates and times, and I appreciate that. And and Melissa and I are all obviously working hard to get up to speed to make sure we're addressing a lot of the issues and concerns that people have. So just a big thanks, and thank you for the citizen input. It means a lot to me, people taking time off to come here. And that's our important role for us. So on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you for joining us today. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.